April 18th marks the anniversary of one of the most notable figures in the Philadelphia crime family. He was a New Jersey-based mobster, and he will rise to the ranks as the consigliere under Angelo Bruno. He will also gain the reputation for ending the peaceful Bruno regime and will change the Philadelphia crime family forever. This is the summary of the passing anniversary of Antonio Tony Bananas Caponigro. As we mentioned before, Antonio Tony Bananas Caponigro was the consigliere under the Angelo Bruno regime during the 1970s. He was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, and would move to the Newark, New Jersey region. As a made member of the Philadelphia crime family during the 1950s and 60s, he would be involved in the crime family's drug trade operation, bookmaking, and prostitution. When the first government witness made national television and changed the organized crime family forever, Joseph Valachi, he would mention Antonio Tony Bananas Caponigro, and this would gain worldwide attention about who Caponigro was and the people that was working along with him. Caponigro grew up as the son of a wealthy banana merchant who owned and managed a stand in the Italian market in the South Philadelphia region, specifically on South and 9th Street. He, along with Angelo Bruno's cousin, Johnny Keys Simone, were all New Jersey-based Philadelphia mobsters who will also be reported to be multi-millionaires, but they were not satisfied, especially under the Angelo Bruno regime. Despite being the gentle Don, the godfather of South Philadelphia, many people were incensed that when Angelo Bruno decided when gambling became illegal, he did not take advantage of the full legal enterprise. One thing Angelo Bruno, along with many other godfathers, when they filed the commission was there was no drug involvement. Drugs were specifically prohibited from mobsters to get involved, otherwise it would lead to a lethal penalty. However, that did not stop from other mobsters for doing it on the side. And the hypocrisy nature from Angelo Bruno was many people suspect that he himself was also accepting drug money from many people from the Carlo Gambino regime. Carlo Gambino was Angelo Bruno's right-hand man and was also the boss of the bosses of the whole commission, the bosses of the five families. When Carlo Gambino had died, Angelo Bruno was exposed, vulnerable, and many people felt like that's when he lost his touch. Caponigro, once he discovered that Angelo Bruno was reported to have making drug money from the Gambinos, he himself decided to plot and move against him. He decided to go behind Bruno's back, get permission from the Genovese family. He turned to Frank Fuzzi Thierry, who he believed, along with many other crime family members, to be the boss of bosses. However, unbeknownst to Caponigro, it was Vincent the Chin Gigante who was really the brains behind everything. This move was also to deter any mobsters or even the media to figure out who was really the power in charge. So therefore, Thierry knew that if Caponigro would go against Angelo Bruno, the Genovese family would take over the Philadelphia crime family, since Philadelphia's crime families were under the Gambinos. So this was a power dynamic. So when Bruno was being double-crossed by Caponigro, Caponigro was being triple-crossed by the Genovese family, specifically Frank Fuzzi Thierry. Caponigro, along with many of his conspirators that involved Angelo Bruno's cousin, Johnny Keys Simone, Frank the Barracuda Sindone, and Caponigro recruited his brother-in-law Alfred Solano on the plot to overthrow Angelo Bruno. On a cold, rainy night, Angelo Bruno had dinner at Cousin's Little Italy. Many underworld observers believe Frank Sindone gave a kiss of death on Angelo Bruno by kissing him on the cheek before Angelo Bruno had his last ride. His chauffeur, John Staffa, a young Sicilian, would drive Bruno to his home on Snyder Avenue. It was a dark, windy, rainy night, and before Bruno would have his last ride, he would pick up a newspaper to read while he was being taken home. Staffa parks across the house on 9th and Snyder. Him and Angelo Bruno would engage in a conversation. Bruno's window is lowered down, as he flicks a cigarette, whether that had been lowered by Angelo Bruno himself or John Stanford loaded it for him. Two men walk behind him, and as Angelo Bruno flicks the cigarette, a gunshot blast goes off. The gunshot will take Angelo Bruno's life instantaneously, causing a whole rift between the whole criminal underworld. Stanford is hit with the pellets from the shotgun blast. The two men had fled from the murder scene, and then John Stanford would do the same. Now, many people are uncertain if John Stanford was involved in the conspiracy, or he was just an unwilling participant that just happened to take place on the same day. But March 21st, 1980, the Godfather was gone. His corpse would be left in a car, unattended, until neighbors hear around the gunshot blast in the neighborhood, and the media will get a hold of it, and it becomes a media circus. The rain would stop, and the people and the media would gather around, taking photos and videos of a Godfather now being slain. Pictures would circulate across the news, and many people will mourn the loss of the Godfather. In fact, you can also hear some of the crying family members and friends asking the police to take him out, since his body was left in display for over an hour. Meanwhile, many reporters, including George Anastasia, Crazy Phil Leonetti, and many other authors, have believed that Caponigro was not only the person who called the shots of the Angelo Bruno hit, but also was the triggerman behind it, as you can see here.
It's a different set of circumstances.
Gotcha. And then I keep hearing, because I don't hear disputes about Antonio Bananas Caponigro being his executioner, because I think Philip Leonetti said that in Mafia Prince, the fall of La Cosa Nostra. But I'm just curious, like, has there ever been like case closes for some of these members, or is always?
I mean, what happened with, I think Caponigro, in fact, he might have even been the shooter that night. Some people say he was the actual gunman with the shotgun. What happened in the aftermath of the Bruno murder was those guys turned up dead. Caponigro turned up dead. Salerno turned up dead. Frankie Sindone turned up dead. So, you know, the Mafia Commission was carrying out street level justice. You know, killing a boss was a major offense, and there always was a price to pay. And it wasn't, if you think about it, what it was the hierarchy of organized crime looking out for one another and watching their back. You know, you don't want to have a boss killed and the guys that do will walk away, because you may be the next boss that's killed.
It goes back to Angelo Bruno, who got Tony Caponigro to be his consigliere. Mm-hmm. And Tony actually didn't get along with Ange. He wanted to make money. He wanted to be the boss too. So he went to New York to complain about Ange, because he was friendly with the guys in New York and this Frank Thierry. And this fella told him, said, look, do what you got to do with Ange. Straighten it out, you know? So he took it where the guy was telling him to kill Angelo Bruno. So he set it up where John Stanford would drop the window, where they were parked out in front of Angelo Bruno's house. And as they were sitting there talking, Stanford lowered Ange's window and Tony hit him with a shotgun behind his head and killed him. And after that, everything went really crazy. We didn't know who did it, and everything really went bad.
And you said things got very ugly. What does that mean, things got very ugly?
Well, we didn't know who killed Ange. We wanted to find out. My uncle went to New York, sat down with guys. New York was really upset. Like, you know, boss is killed. The commission, is saying, whoa, what's going on here? Who gave the okay for this? My uncle finally was trying to get everything together to find out what was going on. Phil Testa didn't go to New York. He was afraid to.
Why is that?
He didn't know anybody in New York.
Okay.
And my uncle was the guy who knew everybody. So as he met with the Chin, Fat Tony, and everybody, trying to find out what happened, they called Frank Sindone up there to find out, and Ange's cousin.
Did they ever find out who did it?
They found out who did it. They finally called, I can't think of his name. All these things that we're talking about is the first time I'm thinking about them in a long time, man.
It's actually a good thing. It means that you've gone back to having a normal life. Like, these are not things that you talk about on a daily basis.
I never think about them.
You never think about them?
No, not at all. Not at all. Caponigro. So there's a meeting with Caponigro. They call him, the first time they call Caponigro, he don't show up. So my uncle's there waiting. They finally, okay, try and get a hold of him. They tell him to come. So they sent for him again, and they said, who gave you the okay to kill Ange? And he told them about Frank Thierry. He said, well, I talked to him. He gave me the okay. And he said, I didn't give you the okay. I just told you to straighten it out. Mm-hmm. I didn't tell you to kill him. Mm-hmm. So right there, they killed him. They took him. and they tortured him. They stuck $20 bills up his ass. Really gave him a tough way to die.
Now, was anybody playing games behind closed doors that somebody did manipulate him into taking him out?
They did, yeah.
Okay,
they
so
did
they
manipulate him. Yeah, they played him to kill Ange because there was a big bookmaking business up in North Jersey that Thierry wanted a piece of. And with him out of the way, he had no problem taking it over.
Antonio Tony Bananas Caponigro will lose his life at the age of 67, and he would change the whole Philadelphia crime family forever. The Philadelphia crime family would never sought out peace after this. Many decades later, any boss that's taken over the mantle has lost their life in many brutal fashions until the mid-1990s. From other alleged mobsters that tried to keep us peaceful, but it was never the same once Bruno was taken out. Caponigro will also change the whole New Jersey operation to how things was being operated, since the Philadelphia crime family was also the power dynamic. He was survived by his wife, Kathleen Ann Cox Caponigro, who will pass away in the year of 1991. His children, Victor Caponigro, will pass away in 2022, and his daughter, Tony Susan Caponigro, in 1989. They will be buried in the Hollywood Memorial Park in the Union County, New Jersey, as we would take you there to see his mausoleum as his final resting place. Newark, New Jersey is a very long destination from the whole Philadelphia area. However, it has been a long operation during the whole peak of the rise of the mafia during the 1950s to the 1980s. Here you are, you can see inside this beautiful mausoleum. We will show you also the statue of Christ, and you can see how beautiful the marble and how it's constructed in the whole New Jersey area. And as you can see, this is the mausoleum crypt of Antonio Tony Bananas Caponigro with his wife and daughter. We will slowly show you the tour of this church, and we hope you enjoyed the content. He is located in the B chapel of the church and mausoleum of the South Terrace section. And as we discussed in this video, this is the anniversary of a tragic fate of Antonio Tony Bananas Caponigro. We will cover his life story in another video, but until then, this is the fatal story of Antonio Tony Bananas Caponigro. If you have any other suggestions, please let us know in the comments below, and we'll be happy to take at what your suggestions are.
Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel and check out more of our content. Feel free to give your feedback and suggestions on what we should do next in the comments. This is Infinite Lee Productions. We love ya.